Oh man, y'all, you can't make this up. What's going on, y'all? Machiavelli Mills TV. Thank y'all for being back with me. I appreciate y'all. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. So now it's time to talk about the back and forth between Mr. Emmanuel Acho and Van Lathan. First, let me get into who these individuals are. Van Lathan was always known as the black guy that worked for TMZ. He had the even all over haircut. I think he's from Baton Rouge, Louisiana. He's known as the guy who addressed Kanye West or confronted him for Kanye's statements about slavery being a choice for black people back in the day. And when Kanye said Harriet Tubman didn't really free the slaves, she sent them to other slave masters, and Van addressed Kanye and let him know how disappointed and hurt he was by those comments and how foolish Kanye sounded, right? And everybody, I remember it was a big thing. Everybody applauded Van, so on and so forth. Everybody for the most part, right? Emmanuel Acho is a former professional football player in the NFL. Now he is currently he's an analyst, sports analyst for Fox Sports 1. He's the head, I think you can call him the head or lead host, or moderator of the show Speak that features Joy Taylor and Shady McCoy. But anyway, Emmanuel Acho and Van Lathan had a back and forth involving Emmanuel Acho's YouTube series called Uncomfortable Conversations with the Black Man. Now, Uncomfortable Conversations with the Black Man was a YouTube series created by Emmanuel Acho after the murder of George Floyd in June of 2020, right? And Emmanuel Acho said in order to educate and inform individuals on racism, systemic racism, social injustice, and the rioting and the hurt of black people today, he created the YouTube series to have conversations with mainly white American people and talk about these issues and have important dialogue, right? So he created the series. It's a lot of individuals that I know that did not like this series. One of those individuals being Van Lathan. Van Lathan did not like the series. He felt like it was handled in a milquetoast way. Milquetoast meaning timid. He didn't like how, Emmanuel Acho was basically serving as an emotional butler for white American people, in this podcast and trying to water down racism in a way to comfort, these same white Americans, right, in the conversation, which he felt like was not a productive conversation at all. So when Emmanuel Acho comes onto his podcast called Higher Learning, Van Lathan cannot hold back. He says, listen, I can't be fake with you. He didn't say that off bat. After Emmanuel Acho started feeling, I guess, like pushback from his show, he asked Van, what is the purpose of this dialogue? And he said, why are we having this? What was your point? He I have to say this because I will feel fake or weak if I didn't tell you how I feel about your show to your face when I say it when you're not on the show. So I have to say how I feel, right? And, a lot of individuals felt like, Emmanuel Acho felt attacked. He felt like, he has a different method to the madness when it comes to talking about racism, and that his method should be appreciated in a way where everybody's method is different. And while Van feels like his method is harmful to the advancement of black American people when we talk about being under the oppressive thumb of systemic racism, Van just feel like it's not productive, but Emmanuel Acho feels like it is, right? And so, I will say this is the reason why Van felt how he feels how he feels currently about Emmanuel Acho's Uncomfortable Conversations with the Black Man YouTube series. The reason why Van Lathan is upset with that YouTube series and why he doesn't like it is because Emmanuel Acho's show, and I wrote notes on this, is a place where white people with racial prejudices and biases and racist tendencies and false narratives about black people can come and feel good about themselves after a conversation with Emmanuel Acho, right? They can come there and say, oh my God, I just sat down with this black man. We had a non-confrontational discussion about race. And hey, at least we had a discussion. We didn't fight. We didn't bicker that much. I mean, we didn't agree on certain things, but I mean, I wasn't made to feel like a complete bigot, and he knows that I don't have outright just hate in my heart. So hey, all's fair in the world, and all's fair and all's fine after this conversation, and I can go about my merry life, and I can feel good about myself now that I sat down and just had a conversation with this black man, right? And that's a problem, because the focus of those conversations should be about what is happening to the lives of black American people under the oppressive thumb of systemic racism, right? Instead, Emmanuel Acho is making the discussion about how white people are made to feel about what's happening to black American people under the oppressive thumb of systemic racism, right? He's worried about how they feel, and this is the problem in this situation, because there are a lot of black American people who, when they get in certain spaces, they are afraid of making white people uncomfortable about conversations involving race. And I used to be one of these individuals when I was younger, right? In my earlier days in college and so on and so forth. In my earlier days when I was like teenage years, I don't want to make people uncomfortable. I didn't want to make people uncomfortable, right? But when you grow up and you realize you shouldn't be worried about this is the thing, you shouldn't be worried about making white American people feel good or comfortable in discussions about white supremacy that they benefit from. You shouldn't make them feel good about it, because it's not a good thing. White supremacy is not a good thing. Systemic racism is not a good thing. And whether they benefit from it or not, and whether they are actively participating in it or not, or knowingly participating in it or not, it's never the goal to make them comfortable in these conversations, right? And I'll tell you why. Feeling bad, uneasy, or even exposed is something that helps a person to really understand that something is wrong. Right? Something is wrong in the system, But when black American people use their platforms to coddle white Americans, to take away their discomfort in these conversations, we take away the ability for them to understand how grave or solemn these situations are for our people, right? Discomfort in dialogue discussing white supremacy creates the ability for our people to be seen as human and treated as such, for us to be heard. Right? When you create discomfort, it allows people to really see what's going on, and they really see it for what it is and not sugarcoat it, right? Case in point, you have a person that'll talk about slavery. And instead of saying slavery, in slavery, we had black American men and women and children were raped, brutalized, they were maimed, so on and so forth. You'll hear one person say, well, some bad things happened to black people in slavery. That is different from saying black American people were raped, maimed, killed, hunted, whipped, beaten to death. That is different from saying bad things happened. And you'll have some people who will say bad things happen as a way to sugarcoat it or dilute it, to water it down, to make it more digestible for the white American population. But if you do that, they don't understand the gravity of the situation, how grave it was for our people. They will never, and again, they understand it, but I'm just making a point. They will act, if we talk about it as if it was nothing, they won't get how we really feeling. And I'll say this all the time. You will never see a Jewish person talking about or downplaying or watering down the Holocaust. No, they will never make it seem like it wasn't really what it was, or, it was way back in the day, it doesn't matter. No, it matters, right? And so that's why it's important for us to have black voices in the media who do not minimize what happened, what is going on with our people currently, what we're facing, what we're fighting against. When we're fighting against police brutality, racism, and systemic racism, when we're talking about all these different things that is leaving our people dying in the street when they're unarmed, when they're not a threat to anybody. We can't use kid gloves, put kid gloves on to have these conversations. Emmanuel Acho is a man who puts on kid gloves when we have these conversations. So he's having dialogue, but it's about racism and police brutality, but it's surface level. It's a little tad bit beneath the surface. It's really not meaningful dialogue to talk about what needs to change, what can be changed on their part, how they can progress these conversations and lead them past conversations and lead it towards action, right? We're just trying to he's trying to paint it and sugarcoat it in a way where to make it digestible so they can understand that he's not attacking them and he's their friend, rather than saying, listen, this is what it is. I don't have anything against you personally, as long as you ain't did nothing to my folks. But if you did, I got a problem with you. And if you are engaging in a system that is oppressing my people and leaving my people dead, I got a problem with that, and you're not speaking up about it, I'm gonna tell you what's the problem is when you don't speak up, what happens to my people, and why it needs to be a call to action and actual action, and not just, it needs to go beyond this conversation. Emmanuel Acho'S not doing it. He's having a conversation talking about how black people feel like this, that, and the third, and then it's kind of like, okay, the white person that he's talking to, whether it be Matthew McConaughey, whether it be like the police department, whether it be Roger Goodell, okay, noted, okay, noted. Now they can go home and they can put up the post on Instagram, and now they feel good about themselves. I had a conversation with a black man. Hey, did some good in the world today. No, it doesn't stop there. Your good in the world does not stop with a conversation with Emmanuel Acho, but that is how Emmanuel Acho is framing his setup with uncomfortable conversations with the black man, right? Now, Emmanuel Acho got upset with Van Lathan, and I'm looking like, well, you got to understand where he's coming from. I understand you don't want to be attacked, and you don't want to be made to feel that you're soft and you're timid in your approach, and you don't want to be made to feel like the bad guy when the bad guy is really systemic racism. But you have to understand what he's saying. These conversations that you're having are not productive. They are not conversations that are really getting to the meat and potatoes of the situation. It's not, and you have to be told that so you can move differently going forward. And the thing about it is, he doesn't want to have an uncomfortable conversation with another black man, even though that's the name of his podcast. He's getting mad, he's getting defensive, he's starting to shut out from really what's going on because he's hearing certain things he doesn't want to hear from Van Lathan, aka i.e. when Van Lathan said he don't really fuck with the show like that, and he called his approach milquetoast, which means timid, and I think it started to rub him the wrong way instead of just hearing what Van was really saying, right? And Emmanuel Acho feels like, hey, I want to take the sting. I can deliver a message I can deliver a message to white American people while also taking the sting out of what I'm saying. And while a person does not need to be, you don't have to be belligerent. You don't have to curse them out. You don't have to be over the top. You don't have to be just every word don't have to be MF and all this and all that and hollering and screaming. But you also don't want to dilute the message, the substance of it. It needs to be discomfort in it. You don't want to try to make it comfortable for them, because discomfort in these conversations are good. Discomfort in dialogue while discussing, again, white supremacy creates the ability for our people to be seen as human and treated as such. Shallow conversation that Emmanuel Acho gives is mistaken by himself as being compassion, right? He feels like he feels like when I have these type of conversations with them, I'm being compassionate. I'm not jumping down their throat. I'm being compassionate, but it really is shallow conversation. Though these are two different things. Compassion and shallow conversation are two different things. His conversations with them are shallow because he cares about their comfortability more than the problem itself, right? Again, however, healthy dialogue involves the other party hearing the hard parts of these conversations so that they can acknowledge the anger of Black American people and look at the wounds of our people straight on, right? And when you look at the wounds, when you're forced to look at our people's wounds, you feel the sting that Emmanuel talked about taking out of his tone when he talks to white Americans. They can feel the sting themselves when they're looking at our wounds head on, because we're not dressing up our wounds. We're not dressing it up. We're leaving it open so you can see it, and you can see, hey, no, this is a problem. We feel like this. We pissed off. We mad. You don't have to say it when you're mean and angry, but say it for what it is. Don't dress it up. Don't try to make it all. Let me serve it up in a platter. And then, again, don't act as an emotional butler for white people by trying to dress it up in a way where they don't take it as harsh. I don't want to be as harsh in tone. No, they need to hear it exactly how it is. And the problem in Emmanuel Acho understanding this, one of the problems is that I think Emmanuel Acho wants to be a media superstar, right? And it's no problem. I understand that. Everybody with a YouTube channel wants to be a media superstar for the most part, right? Everybody does. We want to have a lot of acclaim. We want to have a lot of success. We want to be celebrated. We want to be revered. We want to just, climb up the totem pole. But the problem is he's doing it in a space where he's sitting down with people who a lot of other people that feel strongly about these problems, who feel strongly about systemic racism and the plight of Black American people, they will never get the opportunity to sit down with these individuals, right? And they're sitting down with him. And if you're going to take it upon yourself to say, I've created this platform, this YouTube series to educate and inform on racism and systemic racism and social injustice that Black people are facing, and you really want to relay the feelings of Black American people, you have to do it in the way where it's not served up timid, whereas not the message is diluted, the message is watered down, and you're trying to make it comfortable. No, that's not the pure feelings of Black American people in this country. We're not trying to make everything comfortable when we talk about systemic racism, because systemic racism is not comfortable for our people in any type of way. We feel discomfort when our people are under the oppressive thumb of police brutality, right? When we're seeing all these different things occur in the world today, we see the death of Tyree Nichols, right? And that was from Black men who would beat Black police officers, but still police brutality. When we're talking about that, we don't need a person wearing kid gloves to have these conversations. We need to have them outright. And so if you're going to name your show, if you want to be in this space, you can be a YouTube media superstar, right? But if you're going to name your show Uncomfortable Conversations with the Black Man, you need to have uncomfortable conversations. And again, uncomfortable conversations does not mean jumping down a person's throat and cussing them out and hollering and yelling, but it means, hey, we're going to say what it is. We're going to say what it ain't. We ain't going to put no kid gloves on it. We're not going to dress it up. We're not going to make it to sound like it's really not that bad. No, we're not going to use soft words to soften the blow. We're going to say it for what it is, how we really feeling, so we can really get the sentiments of our people out here to the world. But not only just get the sentiments out, get these people to start putting in action. Not just because the action ain't sitting down and talking with Emmanuel Acho and now they've done some good in the world. No, it's to help to push forward some changes in legislators, so on and so forth, when if they have the power to do so, and a lot of them do. You know what I mean? So that's really what it is, man. But again, Emmanuel Acho, he's trying to be a superstar in the media, so he named it that because he knows if you have that name, it's like a hook line. It's like a buzz thing. It's a buzzword, and people see these conversations. And when the murder of George Floyd happened, it's like, oh my God, this is a dope thing that he's doing. It's powerful. He got Matthew McConaughey on there. He got Lil Wayne on there talking about mental health when he should have been asking Lil Wayne about how it feels to be a raccoon. When Lil Wayne kept throwing Black folks under the bus, talking about his life matters to BITCHs, and he don't know what Black Lives Matter is, and he mocking Black Lives Matter. He wasn't mocking the organization. He was mocking the phrase, the sentiment that Black Lives Matter, which is really some punk shit for his black ass to do. You should have had him on there talking about that and how those statements are harmful to our community, right? When he says that he thought racism was over because he has fans of different ethnicities, that's some hoe shit. That's a cop out, and you should have a conversation with him involving that and how it's detrimental when a person of his status, who is beloved by even people who are the most racist people in the world, love Lil Wayne. If he said that statement, when he says things like that, he gives credence to racist talking points. You know what I mean? When he says things like, oh, racism is over. I thought it was over because I done made a lot of money. I have different type of fans. Are you serious when you made a song called Georgia Bush, right? So you need to start having real uncomfortable conversations with these people you're having on your show, right? But I don't think Emmanuel realizes how timid and unproductive these conversations truly are. If you're going to name your podcast Uncomfortable Conversations with a Black Man, you got to start having conversations that are not surface level. You need to have real meaningful dialogue that's going to evoke change for real, and not just, oh, they leave the podcast and everybody's just, people who have racial prejudices and biases and racist tendencies, or people who benefit from white supremacy are leaving the show feeling good about themselves without trying to figure out a way to change the white supremacy system, or the system, or without them. You gotta have. I'm sorry, I'm stumbling my words. If you want to have these conversations, get them people to feel like, okay, look, I gotta change the systemic racism. I gotta figure out a way to change all of this, all the above, in some type of way. Not just I sat down with Emmanuel Acho, now all is good in life, all is good in love and war. Hell no. That shouldn't be the end all be all of those conversations, man. And that's my point on it, man. So that is why Van Lathan felt how he felt and why he was coming at Emmanuel Acho as strong as he was. Not because he doesn't like Acho, not because he dislikes him, because I think Emmanuel Acho is well-intentioned. I don't think he means any wrong or he's trying to really do anything bad. I think he's a good dude, a solid person, but he got to understand that timid conversation does not help Black Americans in any type of way at all. None of the timid and, having conversations about racism in America with white American people and wearing kid gloves on when you serve it up to them, it's not helpful for our people at all. It's harmful because it's minimizing the pain and minimizing the sting of how our people feel when you're trying to take the sting out of talking to them and telling it to them exactly the way it is. It's not productive. Machiavelli Mills TV, I'm out. Peace.